My area of expertise is around the applications, and I'm particularly interested in the Fusion applications. And really, rather than go through, here are all the things we know about it, I'm going to try and answer some of the questions that people have around Fusion applications. I would, except that my screen doesn't want to change now. Aha. Okay, so just a little bit more about what I do. Basically, I've been working with the e-business suite since release 9.4.1, which is 1996. So I've been working with Oracle applications for a while. I started off as a financials consultant. Now I spend more time doing BI and strategy, but I still spend a lot of time in the e-business suite. So hopefully I've got quite a lot of experience in this area. The sort of questions that people ask are on this slide, and they're sort of the areas that I'm going to cover. What is Oracle's strategy around applications? What are Fusion applications? Where are they? What do people think? What does that mean if you're an e-business suite user or any of the other applications users, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft? The answer is the same for all of them. We're going to talk a little bit about Fusion. And how do we get to Fusion, and what can your user group to help you? And then a little bit about where I think we'll be in 5 to 10 years' time, a sort of a timeline guess, I suppose. So that's the sort of things that I'm going to cover here. Okay, so this is my passion. I don't think that Oracle talk enough about Fusion applications. They talked a lot about it when they first announced it. Then they sort of went quiet, and the reason that they went quiet was because they were worried that it was going to stop people doing things with their current applications, so that they might not move forward as they should. Well, I think that's had totally the opposite effect. I think that by not talking about it, it's sort of stalled where people are, because they keep thinking, well, we've got to wait and see what's in Fusion. So it's been particularly difficult to get the right message from Oracle, and hopefully, and this is quite deliberate, I don't have a non-disclosure agreement. I spend a lot of time with Oracle development on Fusion, and whilst Oracle aren't allowed to talk about it at the moment, there are a few people in the ACE Director program who have had their NDAs lifted, because Oracle do want people to have those conversations, although legally with their commercials, they're not allowed to be the ones. So Oracle's strategy, and hopefully we all recognise this, is complete, open and integrated. I believe that the complete is the old Oracle. That's the Oracle that said, we sell everything. It's not really the old Oracle, they still do sell everything, but previously they would have said, you have to buy everything from Oracle. Go for a complete Oracle strategy. I don't think that's quite so true anymore, but they will tell you that they have the whole portfolio. The open is recognition that people don't. It's recognition that you may well have a Microsoft portal policy at your organisation, or that you might have a different application but you're using Oracle middleware and database, etc., etc. So in order to make it possible for you to run your applications together that may not all be Oracle, they need to be written to open standards, and Oracle have really embraced the open standards. And then all of those different components need to be integrated, and Oracle have done an awful lot, and more than most of the other vendors, to make that integration easier. And a plus point here is that where Oracle own 2 of those points, they will give you the integration as close to out of the box as possible. So they recognize that people don't always use the same vendor, but they make their products so that you can integrate them, and where possible they will give you that integration. Quick look back at complete. There are some customers that do use everything from Oracle, and Oracle have a way of licensing things using universal license agreements, and that means that it's in an organisation's best interest to actually be using a complete Oracle stack. So complete, open and integrated, that's the overriding strategy for Oracle products. You may have noticed that Oracle have been shopping and continue to shop, and over the last 6 years I think we're up to about 67, 68 acquisitions. It is a very quick way of growing your portfolio. It's also a much less riskier way, because whilst Oracle do an awful lot of development themselves, and they continue to put out really high caliber products, it's much quicker to acquire. You get the market share of that product already, and it's a mature product. So that's why they've done a lot of these acquisitions. And, you know, are they going to stop because we've got this economic crisis? Absolutely not. As Charles Phillips says, he's just going to get them for a cheaper price. So, Oracle's application strategy, this is worth spending a little bit of time over, because this is the bit that has developed over the years. I don't really want to say changed, more involved over the years. So, about 6 years ago, when Oracle first bought PeopleSoft, which gave them J.D. Edwards, and then they bought Siebel, they said, we're going to create Fusion applications, and Fusion applications are going to be taking the best of the processes from all of these acquisitions and being written in the next generation of technology. Sounded great. That will be available in 2008, and everybody will be on it by 2013. Not so great. And that's because people didn't want to go to a new product. Luckily, that has evolved, because first of all, it's not here yet, and we're in 2010, although hopefully it will be this year. And secondly, 2013 is not a long way off. I don't think any of us wants to start again in that shorter period of time. So Oracle did listen, and I'm being a bit cynical here, but they listened as much to the analysts as they did to the customers, but basically that wasn't going to work. People weren't going to stomach a completely new application in quite a short period of time. So Oracle, who, you know, bottom line is Oracle makes its money from the support revenues that you pay. You may argue about how much you pay for them, but that's their cost model. So they can't afford for people to say, well, we'll just stop paying support. We're never going to upgrade. We're going to stay where we are. Therefore, we won't pay our support costs. Oracle need that money. So they listened to people and they said, okay, we'll give you lifetime support, which says that we will continue to support you for as long as you're using that application, that version of the application. Now that means you can't make any changes. And that's a little bit complicated, because if you're a payroll person, you need a patch every year. So you would be out of that. You would be out of this. You can stay where you are forever. If you have an application, middleware, and a database, again, you couldn't change any of it. So you can't say, I want to stay on eBusiness Suite 11.5.10, but actually I want to go to a new database version that isn't certified against 11.5.10. And therefore you wouldn't be able to do that. You wouldn't be able to have lifetime support. And lifetime support kicks in after the other types of support have expired for that application version. So that sounded great. There's a few costs involved in it, and there's a complicated support matrix, but I think on another slide I give you a table of that. People thought that was great. They went away, and then they thought, actually, that's not what we meant. We didn't mean we want to stay where we are forever. What we mean is we'd like to stay in our application family. So if I'm eBusiness Suite, I want to stay eBusiness Suite, but I want eBusiness Suite to continue to be developed. So Oracle said, okay, we can afford to do that. Because again, we need this 22% from people, we can afford to do that. So instead of Fusion being the replacement for all of these applications, Fusion has become another product set. So you can happily stay on eBusiness Suite for as long as you want, or you can choose at some point to Fusion. And there's also a hybrid of that, and we'll come back to that later. But Applications Unlimited is actually where we are now, and Oracle will continue to produce new releases of all of the applications about every 18 to 24 months. So exactly the same policy that we've had up to now. So whilst we're on 12.1 now of the Business Suite, there'll be a 12.2 or a 13 or whatever the next number out the door is at the same time as Fusion being released. So Fusion applications are about next generation technology, which I've said, but that's going to give us three things. It's going to give us the ability to adapt quickly. So nowadays our organisations are changing all the time. They're changing because we're acquiring or we're merging with other organisations. It's changing because our business has to change. So there are a lot of things, and in the past that's been quite a difficult thing to do with an enterprise application, especially if you've done any customizations. So we need to be that agile and be able to change things quickly. We also need productivity, next generation productivity. That's about using some of the things that we use in other applications. Like, you didn't have to go on a training course in order to use Amazon to buy a book or to go to a travel website and buy a flight. And that's the sort of productivity that we want to see from our ERP systems, and not these monolithic systems where we've had to have large amounts of training to use them. And that's great, you know, a very smart, modern application, but if it's got all of this new technology behind it, there needs to be an easy way to manage it. So we need tools in there as well. It's going to make the management of this application easier to use. This next slide is just some of the support dates, and Francesca will be able to give you the slide pack afterwards, so I won't go through it in detail. So basically, just to recap that, the existing application families will continue, and Charles Phillips said last year at Open World, for at least 10 years. That means there's another 5 releases at least for each of those applications. And I can tell you from experience that there is still a large number of people on that product set in 10 years' time. Oracle will continue to do so because they do not want to force a large customer base somewhere that customer base doesn't want to go, because they want to continue to collect those support revenues from them. So what are Fusion applications? It is about taking the best processes and writing them in the next generation of technology. Now, that's great, and we'll see a couple of examples in a minute, but one thing to learn from today is that you don't have to throw away your old system and pick up Fusion. Fusion is about taking processes and running them together, integrating them all together using SIR technology, and you'll see that in a second. What that means is, if you say, like your e-business suite that you've got now, that you love the Fusion Talent Management product, you can choose to take Fusion Talent Management, and the same integration that makes it work with the rest of Fusion applications will allow you to make it work with e-business suite. So you can stay with all your mature processes, all the processes that do exactly what you want today and you've no problems with. You can stay with those and then integrate into whichever modules of Fusion applications you want to extend your business. So there's this mix and match idea. So it's very important that you don't feel you have to move everything to Fusion. We talked about this already. Adaptability, so that you can change quickly. Productivity, using sort of Web 2.0 technology. And manageability, the ability to make sure that all of this is being managed properly and it can all work together seamlessly. So, at Open World last year, Larry Ellison said that it would be released this year. We still don't have a date. Personally, if it slips, as long as the product that comes out has no issues, then I'll be okay, although I really do want it to be released this year. We have no reason to believe any different. So in release 1, Oracle believe that there's something in it for at least 60% of their customer base. They don't expect 60% of their customer base to move to it. In fact, they've publicly said that Release 1 is about quality, not quantity. Very few people go for Release 1 of anything. What they really need to do is to prove that it's robust, it works, and it doesn't have any major issues. So there'll be a very, very tightly controlled early adopter, initial people coming on board with a lot of help from Oracle to ensure that that quality is there. It's going to have most things in Release 1. What it doesn't have very quickly is there's no manufacturing, there's no public sector functionality, so basically there's no encumbrance accounting. But there will still be stuff in there that people from those verticals can use if they want to. Data model-wise, it's mainly the Business Suite data model with the exception of CRM, which has come from Siebel. If you think about Release 12 of the Business Suite, there were some major changes in the data model, and some of those changes were things that they'd taken from PeopleSoft to enable a richer experience in the Business Suite. The ability, the hierarchy navigator is much, much better in R12 than it is in previous releases. There's a much better granularity around organizations, and the person model is much clearer. And these are things that have come from PeopleSoft. There's lots of this Web 2.0 type functionality, the ability to communicate, collaborate with other people using the system. For instance, if you enter a record now in an application, the best you can find out about it is who entered it and when they entered it, who changed it and when they changed it. And if my user ID in the Business Suite was a number, then that wouldn't even tell you who I was. So in Fusion, what happens, and this is all down to security, so if you don't have the security set up to do this, you can't, so don't worry about that. If I look at a record and I want to see who did it, with the right click of my mouse, not only can I see the person who did it, but if we use instant messaging in my organization, I can send them an instant message. I can email them. I can chat online. All of those things that I expect to do with the products that I use at home, Facebook, all those other things, I can use in the application, providing that the application security allows me to. So, this is a screenshot of Fusion applications, and this is General Ledger, and all of them work in a similar sort of way. So I'm just going to show a few things about this screen and show you some of the very, very high level of some of the things that I think are very exciting about Fusion. So on this screen, we've got 3 horizontal parts to the screen, and then on the left-hand side, I've got 1 vertical area. In reality, there's also a vertical area on the right-hand side, but it's being collapsed on this screenshot. And in fact, the left-hand side could be collapsed as well if I wanted to. Those are known as accordion panes. The one on the left is about my navigation. And you'll notice that it's not really a menu, it's just a series of links to different processes. And those are defined by the role that I use. The right-hand accordion pane, which has actually been collapsed on this screen, gives me some sort of intelligence and information as I go along. And I'll give you an example of that in a minute when we have a look at the central part of the screen. So in the central part of this screenshot, and I apologise for this, Oracle released to me a number of screenshots. This is one of them. I don't have a better one than this. The top part, which is slightly obscured, is my balances, my general ledger balances. The bit that you're missing is very similar to the second section, which is my journals. Now, in as much as there are a number of tabs. Can people still hear me? Sorry, I've just got a message to say that I might have a network error, but it looks like everything's okay. So in this middle part, I've got a number of tabs. And basically, that is using Oracle's intelligence capability. What it's saying is, tell me what you're interested in, and I'll make it very visible to you. So in this case, I've said, I'd like to see the journal batches that I have to approve. I'd like to see the ones that are mine, that need some sort of action. I'd like to see the ones that I'm responsible for but need someone else to approve them. So basically you're setting up little queries, and each of those will appear as tabs. And those are individuals, so you can set yours up differently than the person who sits next to you. They're just sort of like watch lists, things that you're interested in. It makes it very, very easy for you to do your work. It's all about empowering the user. So in that top section, you would have the same ability to create these tabs for you. Now in the top section, we're looking at balances, and in our applications today, the balances are okay, but they can be slow when we want to see a year's worth of data, or we want to compare one set of accounts against another. And that's because our applications are relational, and relational means we're looking at them record by record. So when we want to see a lot of information, we've got to add up a lot of records. Now, the best way to do this kind of reporting, where you're interested in slicing and dicing large volumes of data, is to do it in what they call an OLAP, or a cube database. And what Oracle would suggest that you do today is extract that data into Hyperion, into their S-based cube, and do some of that slice and dice there. Those of you who've been using systems for a long time, we would have taken this out to OFA in the past. So that's great, and we've had that ability for a long time. We physically had to take the data out of eBusiness Suite and put it somewhere else. What you're seeing here is that part of the screen, just that top third of the screen, is already in S-Base. The data, at the same time that you post into the relational part of Fusion, you're also posting into this cube. So immediately you've got that slice and dice ability in your application. Absolutely wonderful. The second section, which is your journal batches, that is coming from the relational database side. So there you've got two different databases being accessed by the same screen. But you as the end user are totally blind to that. You don't need to know that there's two different databases. That takes us on to that next generation manageability. Your DBAs need to know which one it is, because you won't probably even know that you have two different databases there. When you're entering a batch, today you might use something like ADI to enter journals. Well, in any screen in Oracle Fusion, you can choose to be seeing it in spreadsheet mode. So we can click on a button here and go into spreadsheet mode automatically. No separate application, just that quick data entry view of the screen that you're actually in. When you enter a journal today, what tends to happen is you enter your journal, you post it, you go back, you review your balances, and you realise that, especially at month end when people are doing adjustment journals, you realise that it's not quite the right amount of money. You need to make another tiny adjustment, and you have to repeat that process. You have to go in, enter the journal, post it, and then review your balances. Now that right-hand pane that I mentioned before, which has been collapsed here, when I enter a journal here, as I'm typing it in, the right-hand pane will show me what my balance is going to change to before I even press enter. Now, if you're not a finance person, that doesn't sound very exciting. If you're a finance person, that is so going to make your job easier. It's going to save so much time, and it's that sort of thing that Oracle have tried to introduce to make people's job easier to do, that next generation productivity. And finally on this section is an account of your subledgers. Now in this one there aren't any subledgers, but if you had accounts payable and accounts receivable, it would say whether they're open, whether they're in the future period. All of that would be very visible to you. If you have multiple organisations and you're running it from a shared services point of view, this would be a grid, and it would show you for each organisation which of the subledgers are open. A very, very simple way of maintaining your system. Okay, I have another screenshot here. Okay, again, this one, I apologise for the quality of this slide. This is a hierarchy in HR, and you're seeing this is my hierarchy, and I can see the people that work for me. At the moment, and if you look very carefully, it's giving me contact information. But I can, with a toggle, choose that to be salary information or talent management information or training information. Providing my role has the security to do that, I can change what I'm seeing here, but still maintain that hierarchical visualization. Now, people who use HR today say that you have to go all over the place to get all the information about one person, and you can't do that and still maintain that team view. In Fusion applications you can, and it's a very powerful way of being able to visualize and get the information that you need for your team. So where are Oracle? Well, whilst this first article says January 2009, I think that shows that Oracle have been ready with the software for a while. And this is an article that Thomas Courier, who is responsible for development, he wrote it in January last year. He said, we finished the coding. We're now going through a very serious process of validation and testing. So they did an awful lot of testing, made a few tweaks, and then they had a lot of people in to come and validate the processes. We'll come on to that later, but about 300 people came in and tested it. These were customers who did their own processes through the software. At Open World at the end of last year, Larry Ellison said he would release it in calendar 2010, which we're still in. One of the things that really makes a difference to me is the experience, how the end user uses this. And if you ever get the opportunity to look at the user experience team, I would certainly recommend that. They have this strapline: it's how you work, not just how you click. They have a blog. It's worth having a look at some of those. And there's even a video of the two guys in this photo. Patanjali on the left works for Oracle's user experience. Floyd on the right-hand side works for NASA, for JPL, and he's talking in this video about his experience with the Oracle user experience team. Really worthwhile having a look. They did this as agile development. That means there's a short burst of design, build, test it, make a few changes. They've done 7 cycles of that by the end of June last year. They then went through 5 rounds of this customer validation that I talked about. Each one of those validations had 60 to 120 customers and partners, 500 plus people, 30 hours plus each. I went through 2 of those validation programs. I was really impressed. And now the stage that they're at the moment is what they call quality assurance. That's the training of partners, Oracle consultancy, and Oracle support. There's a big training program going on within Oracle. A few people's comments. Floyd, that's the guy in the video. He's got a blog posting. It's about the experience. Bashir Khan's written about why we can't wait for Fusion applications. And I've written a blog article about how proud I am about user group input into what's gone into Fusion apps. Early adopters are there now, so there are, this is without a date list, I think there's about 20 people who've started the process already. This gentleman here with his tweets, this is Ray Wang. He's a very well-known analyst, really on top of all things ERP, and he's been involved in this program from the beginning. Oracle have been talking to him, and he has access to those early adopters, and those early adopters are really happy about it. So it's, you know, there's very good vibes out there. So what about our eBusiness Suite? Should we be worried if we're an eBusiness Suite customer now? No. I've already said that they're going to continue to bring out new releases. Should you wait for Fusion? Absolutely not. If your only reason for waiting is because you want to see what's in there. Every time that your software vendor gives you a new version of software, you should be assessing it. You should be taking what are the business requirements that you have and looking at the new version and seeing if it's going to add any value to you. Is it going to give you functionality that you need that you don't currently have? Is it going to give you out-of-the-box functionality that will replace customizations that you have so that you can cut down on those customization costs? Is it going to be a better experience for your end users? When you've done that assessment, it's perfectly okay to say, release 12 isn't for us. But if you're just saying, I'll wait till the next version, you're just putting off the inevitable. You're not getting any business benefit today. In some cases, new functionality may even save you money. Now you've got to work out what the ROI is compared to the cost of physically upgrading, but you should be doing that assessment for each and every release. As it says here, it's like putting off going to the dentist. It'll get harder and harder and harder to upgrade if you keep putting it off. In Fusion, I love Oracle products. I'm not always so keen on the names that they give them. But I quite like this term, and it's probably not even an official Oracle term. But I'm British, and therefore I love my cup of tea, and sticking my tea bag into the water is what we call infusion. And what Oracle have done here is they've said the technology that we're building Fusion applications in will make available to you today in your existing application. So we'll allow you to use next generation technology with today's applications. So there are an awful lot of things that you can use today, like business intelligence, like the SOA suite, like their portal application, and all of the integration that you have today to allow you to do that in your business suite, in PeopleSoft and JD Edwards will be the same in Fusion. So it's quite good if you want to start using that technology now, getting those business benefits now, but knowing that your investment is protected because it's strategic to Oracle, because it's also being used in Fusion applications. So what is the technology? So Oracle Fusion is written in Fusion Middleware, complete Fusion Middleware stack, and this release that they're using was released in July last year. So you can be using this today with your current application. Have a quick look at this. This is an Oracle slide showing the different components, but I could look on the right-hand side and have a quick look about more on the database side. We have identity management. There's no point allowing your customer or your end user to use one screen that looks at both an S-based database, your business intelligence warehouse, and your relational database if they have to log into each of those separately. So identity management allows you to have a single sign-on, and that's very important in Fusion apps. We talked earlier about the fact that having a more complicated infrastructure means that you need a better way of using it by CDA, and so they need some enterprise management skills or tools to help them do it. The middle block of this talks about the different components of Fusion Middleware. User interaction, the way that people collaborate with each other. So this is the Web 2.0 type of tools. Enterprise performance management. That's our Hyperion toolset. That's your planning. That's your ability to do things into the future with the data that you can extract today. Business intelligence is the analytics, the part that came from the Siebel acquisition. If you've not looked at the application BI, have a look at that. Some very powerful analytics out of the box for you. I don't quite like the word out of the box. Oracle will tell you it's all set up for you. There is a significant amount of work to do. It's probably about 70% there. But the design and the build is very, very powerful and very easy to extend. Content management. Where are you going to keep the data that's not in a structured form? So invoice scans, purchase orders, all of the sort of things that you may be scanning and keeping in a separate system today. That's available in Oracle as well. SOA and process management. SOA is the key to all of this. The ability to be able to orchestrate your process across these multiple databases, bringing it in from multiple sources, and running that process from one end to another in a single user experience. That's a very important thing that's required. An application grid, this is more of a technical side about making sure that everything's available at the right time and that your box, for want of a better word, is properly utilised. And again, this is tools that are required for you to use. Oracle has a single development platform that covers all of this. There are other ways of developing, but we have one single one, which is through Jade Developer. And more for the SIs amongst you, it's going to be a much easier and richer experience to put things together when we come to Fusion Apps. That information isn't all there at the moment, but I've seen a few things that look very exciting. So Fusion is here today, really. The ability to be able to build these applications has been with us for a while. And if I wanted to, I could build my own Fusion application. I showed that picture earlier of Floyd Tita from JPL. In his organisation, they have embraced SOA. They have put that new generation way of working into their existing applications. So it is possible for you to build your own Fusion. So just be aware that those tools are out there. So it's all about integration. It's about integrating the business processes, do all of your processing from one place. It's about an integrated user experience, being able to collaborate with your colleagues, being able to not have to leave the application to go and do something, being able to do everything from where you are. And integrated business intelligence, being able to use your intelligence to actually run your processes. If your business intelligence tells you that there's a problem in the accounts receivables, then go off and deal with that straight away, not have to go over to somebody else and say, we've got a problem, you need to be able to do something. Let the system do it for you. If this threshold drops below this amount, do this action. Have your business intelligence actually embedded into your processes. So, if I take the diagram on the left here, this is what our applications tend to look at the moment. Each of our applications sits as a standalone silo with its own reporting solution, its own way of doing things, and then the integration between them is point to point. It's probably an extract, some sort of mapping, and then an interface into your other system. And your enterprise architect has this jungle of arrows going all over the place to tell him how everything fits together. The Fusion Vision is, just slightly easier than that, hopefully. What it does for us is it says, leave all of your applications as silos in the middle. Let's not worry about how you report on them. Let's use the BI tools to give you this true way of working together, being able to report from any source. So let's give you one reporting platform, one analytics platform, much more powerful than just simple reporting, enterprise performance management, so that you can look into the future, one platform for that sits above all of those sources, which is available to each of those sources. Very quick thing here. Currently, if we want data very quickly, we end up putting it into a data warehouse of some kind. That gives us a slice and dice ability I wanted earlier, but it tends to be last night's data. So it's not up to the moment. In our relational database, so in our e-business suite, say, we can have up-to-date information, but it's very slow to get it because it's from a relational database. Imagine if you can take everything from last night, from your warehouse, and just today's data from your live system. You're still going to have that speed, but you're also going to have that up to the minute that you need. Those two combined can easily be done in this Fusion platform. The OBIE platform will allow you to take two sources at once. So it's not just a common source, a common platform. It's a way of bringing those sources together. If you go down to SOA, SOA is about calling an action to happen and taking that as a service. So very simplified here. But basically, instead of saying, I need to do an extract from my e-business suite, and then I need to go and put it into my SQL CRM system, what we're saying is, go and get that data. That's one service. It calls the program, goes and gets that data, returns it. Now take that data and put it into CRM. So it calls the service and puts that into CRM, and then returns that, and you go on to the next process. And that ability to do it is very, very powerful, and it is a much better way of being able to see what's going on and being able to make changes very simply to what it is that you're doing. So imagine being able to do that across all of your data sources. Being able to call a service, go off and get something, go off and do the next service. A very agile way of working. Those services can be reused, so that makes it cheaper, and you're able to change that. This is where your adaptability comes in. If your business process changes, you just have to change one of those services or the way that you call it. You don't have to redo the whole process. So SOA gives you this real data orchestration across all of your applications. And then you have Oracle's portal product or Web Center. And this is where you get the single user experience, where you can see everything in one place. So it doesn't matter whether you're in the data warehouse, it doesn't matter if you're in a relational database, you can see it all from one place. So wrapping your applications in Fusion Middleware gives you this much, much richer way of working. And you can do that today with the Fusion technology. So people ask the question, what can I do to get ready for Fusion? And there's a white paper called 10 Things You Can Do Today to Prepare for Next Generation Applications, written by Dr. Nadia Benadju from Oracle. She works in the Applications Technology Group, e-business suite. She has a list of things, a few things about best practice, and then 10 things that you can do where you can start adopting this technology. Fantastic paper. Really, really do suggest that you go and read it. There's a link to it at the end of the slides. And it's about this infusion. It's about using that technology today. But the best practices are also good. You know, do you actually know what customizations you've got? You'll be amazed how many organizations I go to who don't. Do they have a roadmap for the future? What's the strategy for your organization? Where can IT help that? Again, an awful lot of organizations don't have that. So well worth a look at this, and I'll come back to it in a second, because user groups have tried to do something to make it easier for you. Next slide, so almost ready. We worked with Nadia because we had a problem in the international user group, where all the user groups come together, that we couldn't understand how, or we saw the difficulty of somebody going to a conference or listening to a webcast like this and then having to go back and sell that to their organization. We're saying, look at your organization as a whole and not the different silos. That's the whole message about Fusion. So when you need to have that conversation in your organization, a lot of people are stakeholders, a lot of people are part of that. So how can we make that conversation easier? So we put together a tool that we worked with Nadia, and it just helps you to have that conversation. It just gives you a sort of visualization and a few questions, helps you to include everything in the conversation, and gives you some sort of visualization about your adoption at the end of it. The answer isn't to have 100%. If you had 100%, then you're probably not worried about getting value for money if you could afford to put it all in. It's just about what will help your business. Cliff Godwin, who's responsible for e-business suite, he's really behind this. He sees the value to a customer because it's got value today within Fusion and with your existing apps, not just for Fusion applications. So this isn't just something to work with if you want to go to just Fusion. You can get it on the LAOUC website. Again, there's a link here. I don't have a picture here, but basically, we'll just give you a spider diagram. where are you on your SOA roadmap? Where are you on your BI roadmap? Just how well are you doing? It's not about getting a score. It's about giving you a framework to have the conversation, giving you a framework to bring all your stakeholders together and a sort of a blueprint for going through the day and saying, okay, let's look at this. This is number 1 on Nadia's paper. Have we adopted any enterprise reporting? Having that conversation and then moving on to the next step. It's just a way of helping you. It's free, or it's a downloadable app. Oracle do not see the results. There is no sales behind it. Okay, so where are we now? Well, at the end of last year, there was this graph shown to show the adoption of 12.1 or 12. The first year, when release 12 came out, adoption was very slow. That's very normal. People don't normally take the first release of something, first point release. People are slow to move it. They want to start seeing examples first. But then as that matures and another release comes out, you suddenly see the shoot up of adoption. And we're at that stage now with release 12. We're now getting close to half the people onto release 12 of one version or another. But it's taken 2 years to get, or 3 years, to get that sort of momentum. So, you know, what can we expect with Fusion applications? Well, we know that currently adoption of new releases is slow for people who are already on it. If you're a new customer, you know, you'd be stupid not to go to the latest release. So they're slightly different. But in the majority, we're talking about existing customers. So we have this, based on that knowledge, where do we think people will be in, say, 5 years with Fusion? Well, it's a bit difficult to call because Fusion isn't all or nothing. I said at the very beginning you could choose perhaps to take talent management from Fusion apps and run it alongside your e-business suite and use that same integration, that same SOA process to make those two work together. So you will get some people on this pick and mix ride, which will make the figures a bit more difficult to see. And examples, you might use e-business suite procure to pay, but use Fusion General Ledger. You know, all of these different options, whatever's right for your business is what you can do. So I reckon that it will be 10 years before there are more people using Fusion than there are using e-business suite. And I think it will be 6 years before you see that with partial implementation where people are doing this hybrid approach. So I don't think that you should be sitting there now saying, well, I'm still on 11.5.10, let's wait and see what Fusion is before I do an upgrade. Because I don't think people are going to be doing it that quickly. There's a lot of hype, there'll be even more hype. I, for one, am very excited about it. I can't wait to do it live, but I don't think there's a queue of people ready to do it. What people want to see Fusion for is to see the way in which people are going and is there any value in some of it for them. And again, the value might just be adopting the technology now with what you're currently doing rather than going the whole hog and moving to the application. So to summarise, before I take a few questions, they're almost here. Hopefully they'll be here by the end of the year. Do you know where you are and why? I tell you, my organisation's on 11.5.9, but we know exactly why. There's a particular piece of functionality that we've had to build for our business, which is unique, that we know is going to be a big job to move it. Now, we know that, and each time there's a new release, we assess the cost of making that change again with the benefits of that new release. And at the moment, we haven't quite reached the tipping point. And I'm proud to say I'm on 11.5.9 because I can articulate why and where I know my business benefit has to be. So it's not that the answers always go to 12. The answer is, what is it that you want to do? What you know now, what can you do in your organisation? Is there something that you could do now that would help your organisation? Think about that. Do you have your vision? Do you know where you want to be? Don't try and do this all at once. Take small steps. It might just be adopt BI Publisher. It might just be have a look at the BI applications. So take small steps to get there. Have you done some of this already? You know, hopefully a lot of people have done something. And finally, keep up to date with your user group. You know, this sort of web conference is easy to arrange. I'll get some feedback as to how it worked. These sort of things are easy to arrange. There's a wealth of working between different user groups that can be tapped into. You know, when you have your conferences, get presentations come along for you. Have a look at that LAOUC website, download the tool. We're there to help. We have question times for Oracle development once a quarter on Fusion, and then those questions and answers can be made available to you afterwards. So, you know, really have a look at this sort of thing. Lynn from the user group in New Zealand, she's very active in this. So you know, ask the people the questions. And if they don't know the answer, they'll know someone who does. So now I just want to see if there are any questions for you, and I hope that people have found that useful.
Thank you, Debra. It was an excellent presentation, like always. And I was asking the people if they have any questions for you. Debra, can you hear me? Debra?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yes, and
yes,
they have no questions at the moment. No, the people, but they are happy. And thank you so much for your presentation. That was excellent. And I hope to have you here in New Zealand next year for our conference. Probably will be in November next year. And possibly also in Latin America. I hope to have you there too.
Okay. If you get any questions afterwards or any feedback afterwards, you know, if they do them through you, you have my email address. You can come to me and I'll see if I can help. Okay?
Thank you so much, Debra. Thank you to be an evangelist for this side of the Oracle, and thank you for all your help and support to the user groups around the world. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
For DBIS, Database Integrated Solutions, they are the Platinum partners with NZOUG and Platinum partners with LAOUC. Thanks to them, we are using these webinar tools and basically transmitting this for everyone.